At this point, we've faced down smelly fruits, slimy beans, and century-old eggs, and somehow survived. But the world's pantry of weirdness is far from empty. There are still foods out there that look like science experiments gone wrong, but taste like pure culinary gold once you're brave enough to try them. So, ready your taste buds, loosen your gag reflex, and let's close this gloriously gross trilogy with a bang. This is the top 5 foods that taste way better than they look, right here on History of Food. Let's start strong. And by strong, I mean iron-rich. Meet the blood clam, a seafood delicacy mostly found in parts of Asia. It looks innocent enough until you crack it open and realize it's literally bleeding. The crimson color comes from its unusually high hemoglobin content. Yes, the same protein that makes our blood red. Now, before you run away screaming, here's the twist. Blood clams taste amazing. They're tender, briny, and just the right amount of metallic, kind of like oysters with a dramatic flair. In places like China and Thailand, they're prized for their rich flavor and, supposedly, invigorating properties. That said, blood clams do need careful cooking. Raw ones can carry bacteria if not handled properly. But when prepared right, they're a reminder that not everything red is dangerous. Sometimes it's just deliciously intense. And once you get past the shock factor, you'll understand why seafood lovers call them the dark chocolate of the ocean. Fun fact: blood clams have been eaten for centuries in parts of Asia, but because they can carry pathogens like Vibrio and hepatitis E if harvested from polluted waters, many countries regulate their sale, which is why sourcing and proper cooking matter so much. Ah yes, Surströmming, the dish that launched 1,000 viral reaction videos. This Swedish delicacy starts as herring that's fermented in a can for months. And when you open it, let's just say the smell could probably clear a small village. The scent has been compared to rotten eggs, wet garbage, and nightmares. But the taste? Surprisingly subtle and tangy once you get past the aroma. Swedes usually eat it with thin bread, potatoes, onions, and butter, balancing out the saltiness into something almost divine. It's not for the faint of heart, but it's a cultural treasure in northern Sweden. And honestly, if a nation can proudly claim the world's smelliest food and still celebrate it with a smile, you've got to respect that confidence. And when paired with an ice-cold beer and a good laugh, even that smell starts to feel almost charming. You've heard of aged cheese, but how about living cheese? Enter Casu Marzu, a Sardinian specialty that takes fermented to a new level. This sheep's milk cheese is deliberately infested with live maggots that help break down the fats, turning it soft, creamy, and incredibly rich. It's technically illegal in most of the EU due to health regulations, but locals still make and enjoy it traditionally. And yes, it's eaten with the maggots still wriggling inside. Don't worry, they add texture, kind of. But those who've tried it say the flavor is unbeatable, spicy, tangy, and deep. It's not about shock value. It's about preserving an ancient tradition that's been passed down for generations. It's the kind of food that separates the curious from the courageous, and only the brave get bragging rights. Fun fact: Casu Marzu is a traditional Sardinian cheese made using fly larvae to accelerate fermentation. It's banned in many places for food safety reasons, but it's still made and consumed locally under traditional rules. An example of how culinary traditions sometimes conflict with modern food regulations. If you've spent time in the Philippines or Southeast Asia, you've probably seen or been dared to eat balut. It's a fertilized duck egg, boiled and eaten straight from the shell, embryo and all. Yes, that means you might see feathers, bones, or even a tiny beak. Are you still with me? Despite the shock factor, balut is a beloved street food and a cultural icon. The broth inside is rich and savory. The yolk is creamy, and the embryo, believe it or not, tastes like tender chicken with a hint of liver. Locals often season it with salt, vinegar, or chili, and it's especially popular as a late-night snack. Balut isn't just food, it's a rite of passage. Tourists might gag, but Filipinos take pride in it as a symbol of resilience and flavor. Fun fact: Balut vendors sometimes carry the eggs in bamboo baskets lined with banana leaves to keep them warm, because balut is best enjoyed piping hot, preferably with a side of daring. It's more than a snack. It's a story of culture, courage, and comfort, all wrapped inside an eggshell. And finally, taking the #1 spot, Shiokara. At first glance, it looks like something that escaped a seafood lab accident. This Japanese dish is made from raw squid fermented in its own salty, spicy guts. Yeah, not the most appetizing description, but hang on. The flavor is shockingly complex, salty, briny, and deeply oceanic. It's an acquired taste for sure, but once you get into it, it pairs beautifully with sake. Think of it like Japan's answer to blue cheese. Funky at first, unforgettable later. Shiokara is a relic of Japan's old preservation methods, dating back centuries when refrigeration didn't exist. It's proof that flavor often comes from boldness, and maybe just a little madness. Even Japanese food critics admit, once you've conquered Shiokara, you've earned your culinary stripes. Fun fact: Shiokara is a salty, fermented seafood preservative that dates back to pre-refrigeration Japan. Because of its intense flavor and high salt content, it's traditionally enjoyed in small amounts as an accompaniment to alcohol and rice rather than as a main dish. So what do all these foods have in common? They remind us that beauty fades, but bold flavor lasts forever. From bleeding clams to living cheese, every dish here defies the idea that food needs to be pretty to be powerful. It's easy to fear what looks strange or smells intense. But as history shows, the most disgusting foods often come from traditions built on creativity, survival, and pride. Humans figured out how to turn decay into delicacy, and that's kind of beautiful in a weird, stinky way. From century eggs to Shiokara, this trilogy has proven one truth: taste is greater than looks, every time. So next time you hesitate before trying something that looks questionable, remember, it might just be the best thing you've ever eaten. And with that, we officially close our ugly but delicious trilogy. These dishes remind us that food isn't just about presentation. It's about courage, curiosity, and stories passed down through generations. So keep exploring, keep tasting, and never judge a meal by its cover. If you enjoyed this video, please check out our other binge-able channels. Thank you for watching. If you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution.